Well, our Father, we come to you today asking for your blessing. We know that we are here to conduct the business of the people, but we are also keenly aware that we are to conduct the business of your kingdom. So today we simply ask that the business of the people of this county and the business of your kingdom be one and the same, and that our decisions give you glory and bring you praise to your kingdom. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
This time, Madam Clerk, you would call the roll.
Commissioner Webster,
Present.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Here.
Commissioner Horvath,
Here.
Commissioner Garber,
Here.
Commissioner Marks,
Here.
Commissioner Plowman,
Here.
Chairman Root.
Here. All members are present. Welcome. We will move right into the agenda, the approval of minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the January 17, 2019 Board of Commissioners meeting.
So moved.
Support. A motion and a support. Any discussion on the minutes? Any discrepancies found? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We'll move right into approval of bills. Commissioner Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve the invoice edit reports dated 1/18/2019 for $2,203, juror batch 3095. 1/22/2009, $770,860.45, manual batch 3091. 1/25/2019, $36,898.66, manual batch 3097. 1/25/2019, $1,215,023.38, regular batch 3098. 1/25/2019, $764,984.92, manual batch 3096. 2/1/2019, $212,254.57, regular batch 3099. 2/1/2019, $926.43, 2018 batch 3101. 2/1/2019, $5,112.02, 2018 batch 3102. 2/1/2019, $1,761,129.86, regular batch 3103. 2/4/2019, $1,528.25, juror batch 3104. 2/6/19, $577,502.54, manual batch 3100. This totals $5,348,424.08. Also, wire transfer 1/21/2019 for $218,583. Grand total $5,567,007.08, both batch and wire, and to authorize the warrants be drawn from the Treasury for sale.
Thank you, Commissioner Plowman. Commissioner Plowman has a motion on
I
the
will
floor
second.
to pay the bills. Commissioner Marks with a second. Any discussion on the bills? All right, we'll do a roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Horvath,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Yes. Motion passed. Now we'll move into our opportunity for the public to address the board. And we will start with Rich Labden.
Thank you. I'm here to speak against the whole idea of a new jail. I don't think that that is at all an appropriate county expense, given the clear, greater need for addiction, mental health, social services. Those are all public health problems. Sure, they have a forensic aspect, but they are fundamentally public health problems, and they're not suitable to be dealt with within jails, prisons, incarceration. We've become a mass incarceration society, and the county is headed right that way. and it's at the wrong time. The Senate the Congress just passed criminal reform. The era of mass incarceration that we see now is ending. You're gonna have a white elephant out there, and you're gonna be dependent upon draconian, how are you gonna fill it? You really need to think about this. You needed to think about it from the beginning. We don't need so much a new jail as we need, my proposal, and I'd love to hear someone argue against it, put the census at 90. And that can be accomplished, I'm convinced, and someone tell me otherwise, that the people who are not in a danger, who can't afford bond, let them out. There's a variety of imaginable creative ways to secure their safety in the community. You don't even look at those. This is a business, let's face it. Mass incarceration has been, the fellows that were here last night, I did a little research. They are, in the Midwest, the biggest, set in western Michigan. They are part and parcel of what's happening all over the country. There's no other country that has its citizens in prison like we do, except countries that are, you wouldn't want to be there. Mass incarceration preys on low income, disadvantaged, people of color. They're the ones that, everybody knows that. This county is infamous for white collar crime being just slapped on the wrist. And I know every one of you knows that. The homeowners that you're going to be taxing for this misadventure are already financially in very difficult straits. It amounts to middle class welfare. That's what it amounts to. Because how many $40,000 jobs is, the population of this county has stayed the same for the last 50, 60 years. But how has the criminal justice system in this county grown? By leaps and bounds. How's that to be understood? What's wrong with the people of this county that they have to be imprisoned in magnitudes of what happened when some of you were born and lived through? Why was there, I didn't hear any word about an inmate census. If we had an understanding of who's in that jail, what's the average length of stay? How many are there less than 7 days? How many are there because they can't pay their bond? How many are there because we don't have the imagination to serve our public? There's many, many ways of securing people's safety other than incarceration. That is simply the easiest and the most profitable. And the fact of the matter is, you cannot keep the mentally ill and addicts safe in jail. And that is proven by the tragic death of that 32-year-old woman last February of 17, I believe it was, or 18. The state inspection of the jail 20 years ago found it to be inadequate across the board, according to the paper. What does that say? You look at it and you realize it's practically middle-aged thinking to think you can serve people in a cell arrangement like that. You don't have to be bright to realize that doesn't work. You're going to be embracing an idea and a technology and a methodology and a philosophy that is bankrupt. It's corrupt. It's bankrupt.
All right, sir, if you could start wrapping up. You have 3 minutes. We've given you more than a lot of 3 minutes.
All right, I'll wrap up real quick. Do I get a chance to speak again?
You can speak again.
The harm done by mass incarceration is incalculable compared to the harm done by, and I will say, your war on drugs did incalculable damage. Also, 2 days in a row now I've stood for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I haven't done that in a while, and I actually went home and brought it up, the whole text, just to look at it. And you know, the last words are, "and liberty and justice for all." That does not happen here. It doesn't happen over there either.
Thank you. Move on at this time to Matthew Shepard.
I just want to be brief in addressing 3 issues. Number 1 issue, you put somebody in charge of finances that refused to pay their taxes, whether the county paid them or somebody else paid them, to the finance director of this committee. Number 2, we addressed this issue on the Veterans Fund and its appropriations. The taxpayers give assistance to veterans over these few years that it's been applied, and yet the veterans aren't getting complete service as they should, with over $4 million being harnessed out of the system and put into whatever special fund that was never figured out. I'm just wondering if this committee is going to do anything on that or sit on their hands again. And I'm here also to oppose the jail. I agree we need something different, something more sustainable for this county, but should not be coming out of the taxpayer's pocket. With over 60% of incomes going to taxation through our federal, county, and state governments, the taxpayers can't handle it. You want to privatize it? Great. Make a profit off it, then pay for it off the profit and privatization, not off the taxpayer's pocket. Thank you.
Les Schneider.
You caught me putting candy in my mouth. So I'll try to keep it a nice, sweet comments. It'll be a struggle. Talking about, I have many times come in here and talked about Veteran Village project. I understand now you want to put, a new jail on the same property. It's 26 acres out there. I think there's enough room to put a row of trailers for tiny homes on wheels on one edge. As far as there being liability problems and all, insurance, county already has liability on all the property that they own. So they all, and I'm sure you already know that that property already has water and sewer on the back of it, coming from the city out to the subdivision on 21. So that's already in place. It'd be easy to tap into, and then we just have to have electrical. As is, in the meantime, the residents out there could possibly use the juvenile detention center if Brian would unlock a back door for bathroom facilities, or the new maintenance. I'm sure they have something out there too. So it's the most convenient. We've got SATA going out there half a dozen times a day, picking people up and dropping them off. So the veterans would be able to get around without having to change anybody's schedules. And I keep coming in, the big thing is that we all survived the last week of really cold, bitter weather. What about the homeless? They're not staying in the churches and stuff anymore. A lot of them are trying to, they got no choice, they're sleeping out. What we're trying to do is just give them someplace where it's warm, with lights, heat, and someplace so they'll survive. As it's really important, as it's not only for vets and their families, but families, period. And it's nothing really going to be a little to no cost. I can't think of anything that'll cost anything for the county. So it's just asking permission to be able to put some tiny homes on wheels. Maybe down the road, we can put, a cement slab and put, some small houses, but they'd be like high efficiency type places. We're all from Michigan. Primarily, you go up north anywhere and see little cabins, hunting cabin kinds of things, beside motels, Same idea. It's just a place somebody can stay temporarily until they get their feet under them. So give it some hard thought, because the winter's not over, and we do have a lot of people that are trying to live in this kind of crap. Okay? Thanks much.
Is there anyone else at this time who would like to address the board? If not, we'll move right into committee reports. We'll start at this end of the table. Commissioner Webster, do you have any reports from any of your committees, if any have met yet?
I do not have reports from committees. Weather has canceled some things, and funeral canceled one for me, so I don't have reports. I've had some one-on-one conversations with some of the department heads, and as far as public safety and courts, and just kind of feeling my way and learning what their expectations are and how I can serve, and how we can serve and support them. So.
Thank you. Commissioner Horvath.
Yeah, well, I think the only committee in which I've been placed on by appointment here that has met is the GLS 5. We had a follow-up meeting to what I had reported last time. However, most of that was just forwarding information that we were working with a grant that was approved and approving the budget adjustments in order to work with that. So that was a good thing.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Marks?
Nothing new from me.
All right. Commissioner Garber?
No report.
Report from anything. Commissioner Olshausen?
Yes, I'm on the senior citizen board. That didn't meet. I was on the health and wellness, and that's the mental health. That didn't meet because of the weather. I was on the 911 board, and we met, and they want to go over, they asked us this in here that they want to have the audit on their MERS account. That was what their main topic was, and they elected a new president. I forgot his name.
Guy Hubbard.
Huh?
Guy Hubbard.
Oh, Guy Hubbard, okay. And that was it. And then I'm on the economic meeting, and one of the topics there was they was wondering about. We see we've been having trouble with some of our. They talked about several things, but they wanted to get together with the county or some of the townships about the commercial property, the rezoning, because some of them we rezoned them that was residential, and they kind of like to get in to have more of it commercial property, because there were businesses there, so that's what they talked about.
Thank you, Commissioner Olshausen. Commissioner Plowman?
The one I've attended that I've been appointed to is the Township Association met last Tuesday, and the program was presented by Trent Atkins, our Homeland Security official, and we learned a lot about Homeland Security, and other people were there and gave talks. Several elected officials were there and gave reports. It was a very good meeting, and there were snacks afterwards, so it was really good. So, but it was well attended. It was almost full. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Plowman. I did attend the Shiawassee River Water Trail Coalition meeting. On behalf of Shiawassee County, we did, it has been designated by the DNR, the state of Michigan, that it is a state water trail. It's yet to be signed as a national water trail by the National Park Service yet. It still is on the desk of the Department of Interior, but I think that secretary position keeps changing up right now, so it's kind of hard to get it signed, but they are still working on that, and it was just my first meeting, kind of got to meet everybody and know all the partners that are involved. It goes all the way from Holly all the way up to Chesney, so it was kind of an introductory meeting for me, but interesting nonetheless. Health board was today, nothing really from the health board, no agenda items. Building is coming along. They look to be moving in on March 11th, hopefully March 18th is going to be their open date for clientele. We actually kind of got a hiccup now, was the elevator was the initial holdup that set us back from the February go date to March, and now the elevator is in and partially in, I guess it's getting there, but the biggest holdup is the flooring right now, and the carpet's been, I think, back ordered maybe, or that they're waiting on, so that's been kind of a holdup. So still looking at that, and we're still gonna have to plan on our movement plan for the rest of the offices, because this one's gonna be a big, once they come out of there, that's gonna open up a big space in our district court building that we need to start moving some offices in. Definitely need to start thinking about freeing up the third floor. That's cramped in the Surveck building, so. That's pretty much all I have at this time for committee reports. We'll move on to the agenda. Committee of the whole, Commissioner Marks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 6, 2019 Committee of the Whole meeting.
Support.
We have a motion and support on the minutes. Do we have any discussion on these minutes or any discrepancies? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Marks. Move to Econ and Physical Development, Commissioner Horvath.
Thank you. A motion to approve the discharge of a rehabilitation mortgage dated December 14th, 2009, executed by Tina Cole of 811 East Comstock Street, Owasso, Michigan, 48867, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support?
Motion and support on the floor. Do we have any discussion on this motion? All right, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Horvath,
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Yes.
Motion to approve a farmland PA 116 agreement for, excuse me, Bruce and Cynthia Bitterman for property located in New Haven Township, parcel 003-04-100-004-01.
Support.
Motion and support. Discussion on this motion? All right. Hearing none, another roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Horvath,
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Yes. Motion approved.
Motion to approve a farmland PA 116 agreement for Bruce and Cynthia Bitterman for property located in New Haven Township, parcel 003-05-200-005.
Support.
Motion and support. Discussion on this motion? All right. Another roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Marks?
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Horvath,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Yes.
Motion to approve the minutes of, I'm sorry, did
Go ahead.
I? Motion to approve the minutes of February 4th, 2019 Economic and Physical Development Committee meeting.
Support.
Motion support, approve the minutes. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, that's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Horvath. Move to County Finance and Administration, Commissioner Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to authorize the Shiawassee 911 to contract with Yo and Yo CPAs and business consultants to perform a municipal employees retirement system, MERS, audit from 2013 to 2017, not to exceed $8,500, and authorize Lieutenant Angela Norling, Shiawassee 911 Director, to sign all necessary documents.
Support.
Motion and support. Do you have any discussion on this? Anything that needs to be added? All right, we'll do a roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Horvath,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Yes. Motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to adopt resolution number 19-02-01 to certify the ballot language for a millage request on the May 2019 ballot for the construction, equipping, operating, maintaining, and financing of a new county jail and expanding correctional programming, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
There's a motion on the table.
Support.
We have a support, Commissioner Horvath. Now it is open for discussion at this time. Sheriff?
Good evening.
Welcome.
Last night, you heard about the jail's condition, as you have for years and years. And you heard from Master Sergeant Casey Colbury as he explained the conditions that the deputies work in. The jail's in bad shape, and I know people don't want to spend money, but we're incurring a liability that may end up costing the county money in the long run. Crime happens every day. You can't let everybody out on the street to run around, no matter how opposed you are to incarceration. I had 5 murder suspects in there at one time, just since I've been sheriff. So these are not safe people that you want among you. We need to have a place to secure them. But there's good things that can come out of incarceration, because a lot of the crimes that are committed are crimes against society. And I believe when you have crimes against society, that those people can be helped. And they can be helped from some of these programs that we have a plan to develop with community health and wellness. These plans can be developed as necessary. So with that in mind, I ask you to give serious consideration to moving this forward and allowing the people a choice on building a new county jail. Tonight I have asked Mr. Nate Watson from Public Finance Management to come and answer any questions that you may have in regards to the numbers that you were provided. And Ms. Hall is here again tonight from Shiawassee County Health and Wellness if you'd like to discuss any of the problem or the program, that have been developed to help with this recidivism problem. Another feature of this jail that I think is a strong plus is the juvenile holding facilities. There are a lot of crimes committed by juveniles that we're housing outside this county, and it costs about $200 some a day. Yeah. If one of our children from this community commit a crime, I think I'd rather have them right here than sitting in Saginaw or Genesee County somewhere among people that may have done worse. So if you have to have a jail and you have to incarcerate people, I think it's better that it be right here among our own people. So, thank you, and I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Watson if there's any questions about the numbers that he's provided to you.
All right. Does the board have any questions or related to numbers or?
So I had a conversation with Mr. Watson before the meeting started, because I've asked this question a couple of times this week and was not able to get clarity on it. And so I'm going to say what I understood that he said to me, and then maybe that'll help some of you be able to understand what he may explain. The question I've been asking is, on this chart that's sort of the front page of PFM, it's got notes scratched on it, but that table with the 5 scenarios, we have the different estimated millage amounts, and the bond amount stays the same each time. But then over on the far right, there's fluctuation in operations and programs. And I've tried to figure out, how is it that the bond amount stays the same, but those programs are fluctuating? Are we going to spend less on a building if we do the programs? How can you have a consistent bond amount and have fluctuating operations and programs? And so this is what he explained to me, that we're voting on a millage amount, and that the millage is going to cover basically 4 things. It will cover the bond amount, which is the building of the physical plant. It will cover the interest. In addition, and so those are bond related, the bond and the interest on the bond. But in addition to covering the bond, the millage is also going to pay for operations and programs, which means that under scenario 1, 1.64 million, what we're actually collecting from taxpayers that total amount of the project is really 47 million, not 37 million that we've been saying. And with interest, the total cost of scenario one is over $70 million to taxpayers. Is that,
It's close, it's close. So you're right, the jail bonds are estimated to be $37,230,000. What this consists of is a project amount, the higher end scenario that was provided to BFM, of $37.7 million. And then the bond amount incorporates the cost of issuance and less interest earnings on the bonds. So in all the scenarios, the project cost, so the upfront dollars that the county would receive after the bond sale, is $37.7 million. And that relates to the bond amount of $37.23 million. So obviously when you're paying back a bond, the principal needs to be repaid. And in this case, the interest component brings up the total estimated bond cost to $54,128,000. Now this is based on an interest rate of 3.8%. Given the county's current S&P rating of AA-, the current interest rate would probably be around 3.25%. However, because we can't go to market and sell these bonds today, we've buffered this up by about 0.5%, maybe a little bit more in this case. But again, that's for interest rate movements. Interest rates move every day. The county credit rating hasn't been looked at since 2010, so this is just a kind of a cushion in order to provide you with an estimate of what this project would cost. And then in addition to that, as you said, we have total operation expenditures that will be covered by the millage of about $231,000, and then programs also to be covered by the millage of about $250,000. So breaking it down based on our estimates, significant assumption, 2% taxable value growth, 1.64 mils would generate total property tax revenues of about $70 million. Of this $70 million, about $54 million would be used for the principal and interest on the bonds. About $5.6 million would go towards operations. About $6 million would go to programs, which would leave a surplus after 20 years of about $4 million.
Is there anything else, Mr. Horvath?
Yeah, you know, I was having some people who I know help review some of the numbers that we've had. And some think that this is not necessarily a millage bond, but a millage levy. Are you familiar with those terminology?
That is correct. The community would be voting on the millage amount, not the dollar amount of the bond project. So that's a good question. So if it was only a bond proposal, what we would do is that would be the county would vote on if the county has the ability to issue $37.23 million. However, there's some programs to also be funded with this millage, so the community will be voting on the millage rate, not the bond amount. Does that make sense?
Maybe.
Sure. Sure. So with schools, you typically vote on the dollar amount, and you have unlimited tax power. You can levy whatever's needed in order to cover cost of issuance and bond debt service. In this case, the county would levy 1.64 mils, and that money generated on an annual basis would take care of bond debt service, operations, and programs.
Okay. Yeah, just one of the comments I've written down here, regarding if this is in fact a millage levy, is that, you know, that would, you know, it would be an advantage in a sense, because of the adjustments that are possible along the way. Is that an accurate statement at all?
Yeah, I think where you're going at is the tax base could grow more than 2%. There's the Headley rollback that would basically restrict that 1.64 mils if the tax base grew more quickly than inflation or 5%. But you know, if the tax base grows more quickly than 2%, then 1.64 mils would generate more money. Then it would be the county's discretion on whether or not to levy the full 1.64 mils.
Okay. So essentially, we could adjust that millage
Downwards, not upwards. So it'd be a maximum of 1.64 mils.
Okay.
And if you voted on the bond amount, then you'd have discretion to go, either way with it. But when the community votes on the millage rate, you can only decrease it.
Nate, thank you for coming today. If we were in the position to reduce the bonds early, what kind of a penalty is there for pay off early?
Sure, so these are tax exempt bonds. Typically tax exempt bonds are sold with a 10-year call. Usually that 10-year call is used if interest rates are lower come 10 years, then you reduce the cost of interest. If there's extra money in 10 years, you could reduce the par amount by calling it. There is no premium for that. It's just sold with a 10-year call option, but it's at the option of the county, not the investor.
Yeah. So it's 10 years before we can call.
10 years before you can restructure the debt. Exactly.
Okay. 10 years before restructure.
Now, that's not hard and fast. If there's a need to have a shorter call, it will come with an upfront penalty in terms of interest rate. But the 10-year is standard for tax exempt bonds.
More questions, commissioners?
I just got one. In the initial discussions, of course, I reported this to several of my constituents, that the total cost would be $60 million. And the total cost here is $70 million.
Based on a millage,
Interest in programs and maintenance.
based on the millage rate and our assumption tax value growth 2%, 1.64 mils would generate property taxes of approximately $70 million
Yeah. With a $4 million cushion left over.
with a $4 million cushion left over.
And also you expressed that the 2% growth, that's basically, the county goes from $1.7 billion of value, and then 20 years later, for the sake of argument, it's worth $2.6 billion.
Correct, over 20 years at 2% growth.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Compound.
Yep, and that's a very hard thing to estimate. Obviously with this, with the recession, taxable values really took a dive. Recently, I think the county's growth was over 3% last year. I know the CPI, or inflation, for 2019 is about 2.4%. Last year it was 2.1, and the county almost doubled that. So it's really a hard projection.
Yeah.
The 2% is conservative.
Okay, all right. It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of money, and I think maybe it should be up to the voters whether they want to, pay for that much money. And also, I don't think there's going to be money left over even after 10 years and stuff. We're going to have to do some maintenance to it and do some work on it. And there's going to be, some upkeep, so we're not going to have a lot left over to reduce everything down, I don't think. So that's my theory about everything.
What is the cost of an election?
Well, a countywide election's gonna run about 20 to 25,000. And that's with some unknowns because of some of the laws that changed in the proposal 3. And we don't have all those answers yet as to how the Bureau's going to be doing some things.
Mr. Chairman, I am convinced that we need a new jail, but I'm struggling because I only saw these numbers, for the first time a week ago yesterday. And just today got answers on some of the questions that I've been asking because we didn't know. And I think it's an indicator that this is a very, very large project and it's moving very, very quickly, and I'm uncomfortable with how fast I'm being asked to make a decision that I have to explain to constituents, and maybe just people who are against it are the ones who call, but I've heard from a lot of people that this is just too much. So those are my struggle is on this.
Thank you. Yeah, I do think, I think there's gonna be people that are concerned. I know you're new, so I know it's being rushed on you. But the previous board and the sheriff have been working on this for 2 years, and this is something that has been going on. It's been an ongoing work. Understand there's 4 new commissioners, so that changes things. But I know the commissioners, or the sheriff has taken a lot of time and put into it, along with the feasibility study, the jail committee meeting, and so there has been a lot of time because we know it's a massive undertaking. It's a massive project. I mean, we know the need is there, we've seen that the need's there. The problem comes into how do we fix this need, you know? I'm not the biggest fan of just saying, yeah, we gotta put it out to the voters and the voters gotta either vote to pay for it or turn it down, you know? I don't like that idea either. I don't like going to my meetings and having to tell them, yeah, you know, we're gonna put something on the ballot that could pass. You could vote no on it, but it could still pass. You know, I have trouble with that, and I always do when any kind of proposals like this go out that are costly. But I do understand that we have to do something at this point, and I mean, at this point, it's our simple ask. It's our ask to the public. Let's gauge the public. If the public comes back with a resounding no, then we're at the drawing board again. I mean, I don't think anyone up here is sitting here saying, we want to raise your taxes, we want you to, you know, you have to support a jail, you have to pay for the jail. We're just simply asking the public, would you be interested? Would you help us out? Because there is liabilities, there is concerns, there is problems that could arise from this. And I mean, the building was built in the 60s. We're getting to that point. It's unsafe for our workers. It's unsafe for the individuals in there. So, I mean, I understand all concerns because I have them myself. So, but again, my one thing that I keep going back to is when do we address this problem? You know, if not now, then.
I mean, is there any way that we can just take another 6 months? Can this be a November election?
I mean, that is a possibility.
Or August?
It is a possibility.
It just feels like, you know, that we've seen one plan. Are there could we do less than 224 beds? That's a lot of beds. 9,000 square feet per office, that's a big office. I mean, is there a way that it can be scaled down? Can we pursue some grants for programs? I mean, I want to vote yes for a new jail, but my other concern is that, yes, I am new, but also we've known since November 7th that I was going to be a commissioner and have to make this decision, and I got the packet of information 8 days ago. And I haven't had time to take it out to my townships, to talk to any of them, to see what their input is on this. It could help us to save the $25,000 for an election if we were gauging where people are. So that's where I am, struggling with that, because I know that we need a new jail. I think our current jail is inhumane, and I think $70 million on a very poor county is inhumane too.
Anything further from commissioners at this time? Commissioner Horvath?
Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate just a little bit on the subject of lesser beds and this type of thing. I didn't realize actually until the presentation that was here that what we saw is basically an architectural sketch of what the plan would look like. Mm-hmm. And they talked about expandability in the future. Why can't we produce a smaller, not necessarily smaller, but a lesser bed solution for right now? Because apparently our census doesn't necessarily need to accommodate the 236 beds. This only comes from a future plan. So that's that's just one of the elements of this whole thing. Keeping the costs down, is a factor.
Yeah, we were. I believe the initial study when we put this out was a 300-bed facility, was larger, and then per the study, and then just looking at the numbers and what could come down with this county and the trends that are going on led to the 220. I believe it's
224 beds. And I think it was also explained yesterday, if we have 224 beds, that doesn't mean we have 224 inmates. You may have 205 because you have to leave room in a jail. You can't fill it to capacity because you have to have room to classify people, to move people around, to do preventive maintenance and things like that. So it may seem high, but we're not reaching that number. That's our problem right now, why we're in violation, because even at the numbers we're at now, we don't have the room to move the inmates around to classify. So it's just a matter of making the room
Right.
is how some of that figures in there.
Just to be clear, I do believe we need a new deal. You know, I mean, I don't see any other way around that.
Sure. And we didn't pick that number. That was just a suggestion from the jail feasibility study. So that's how they arrived there.
And yet, you know, some of the comments that he did is, you know, that's an awful amount, that's for the size of our county. And like I say, I would like to hear more information, and I suppose that's why I don't want to delay this. I'd like to hear more information about that possibility of building something that can be expanded into a larger capacity over time, and then, you know, make what adjustments we need.
My fear with that would be the double ask. It almost seems like you'd be asking for something now and then in 5 to 10 years saying, hey guys, by the way, we built it too small, we need to ask more. I mean, I think the layout of what it is right now, I have no problem with the layout, the size, the scale of it. I think that all came in with the study and looks like it's what's necessary moving forward. Still being slightly on the conservative end, not the large side. But again, it's the you know, the cost does concern me, but I think the size of it, I think the specs and the plans is pretty solid. I wonder if we do go another 6 months to discuss this, I don't see those changing much. I mean, I think it's a pretty solid plan. You know, I mean, and again, we're I don't know. And Commissioner Marks, I think he had something.
Yeah, you kind of said my thoughts regarding the 224 beds. The last thing I would do as a commissioner would be to build a jail for less than, and if I remember correctly in the presentation, that projection 224 was for growth of the county. So, right, we're not going to build a jail, which 10 years from now, 5 years from now, they come back and tell us, well, we're at capacity again. What have we done? If we put something on a ballot where it's too small for our needs, we grow. Right? We're not gonna, I would never do that. So the 224 beds is a sticking point for me. As the sheriff said, you cannot be at capacity. There's a lot that goes into that. The beds isn't the issue. Money is going to be the issue to the people. There isn't many people going to be sitting in their home today reviewing some of what we've gone over and say, man, I don't mind the money, but it's the beds that are killing me.
But it's the downsizing you have. Sorry.
The issue is the money. And, you know, you talked about expansion costs. Maybe we go smaller and we can expand. That is true. The way that they've set up the jail could be expanded. But once again, you're going back to the taxpayer saying, well, we built a small jail just because we thought we wanted to be conservative. That's great. Now we need another, you know, to levy again. That's not going to happen, right? We may not get this passed if we put it on the May ballot. We may put it out there and it fails 70 to 30. And then we will be back to the drawing board. My fear of delaying this, and I don't want to rush anybody, but yes, Mr. Root, I have been on this for 2 years, looking at all these numbers and the feasibility of this and what we need. If we were to delay it to November and it goes down in November, then we're back to the drawing board and we've delayed this 1 whole year before we can come back again. And another year of this is going to cost us. It's not worth it. Let the people decide and let's gauge where they are. And if it's a yes, then it's a yes. If it's a no, then it's our job. Then it's our job to go back and take a look at what we need to strip off, what we need to change, what really it is we can look at to make it move closer to the will of people. Right now, we don't know where this stands. It's been 20 years. We have no idea. It's up to us today.
Sheriff?
You know, I respect everybody's opinions on stuff, but I can tell you every day that you delay, you are throwing money into a building that is dysfunctional and obsolete. And if you keep delaying it, you're going to have to throw in more money, and then there'll be people who said, you just put $100,000 and some roof on it, and you want a new jail? No way. You know, we asked for this jail 20 years ago when the county needed it, and it was $25 million back then, and that included the courthouse. And now we stand before you today saying we need a $37 million jail and no courthouse. So the cost of construction is only going to rise. So I have these feelings. Back in 1963, they may have had these same arguments about building that jail, and here we are. But and nobody wants to do it, but it needs to be done. So I wish you guys would all think about some of those things.
I'd like to call the question.
Question called. Is there anyone challenging the question? Yes, no? All right, then we will put this to a roll call vote at this time. I feel it's fairly rushed. I had some more comments I'd like to make, but we'll go ahead and roll call vote.
Well, Mr. Chair, if you have more comments you'd like to make, then I'll contest the call. We'll keep it open. Let's talk this to death if we have to, because this is a big decision for 75,000 people. We'll sit here all night if we have to make the right decision, or whether it's a yes
The
or no.
challenge, now we will roll call whether or not call the question.
There was no second to the call.
I second it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Westman.
Okay, 1 moment. Okay, call the question. Commissioner Webster.
I'm sorry, you're gonna have, if I vote yes on this, are we calling the question or we're, okay, no. We don't want to call the question, we want to continue to discuss, we vote no, if that's what you want to do. Yeah.
Commissioner Holzhausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Horvath.
No.
Commissioner Garber.
No.
Commissioner Marks.
No.
Commissioner Plowman.
No.
Chairman Root.
So, at this point, we're gonna keep discussion open. We have talked about it. My concern still remains, like Commissioner Marks said, the price is gonna be the biggest thing. But I agree 100% what he said. That's kind of the message I was trying to get out there, is that we do need to gauge where we're at with the public, and we are asking the public. We're not telling the public, we're not forcing the public, we're simply asking the public. We're not forcing to raise your taxes. You have your vote, you have your say. If you feel it is a no and you feel it's not needed and you feel you can't afford it, then your vote is no, and that's fine. That's where you have to be. If you feel like we could use it and need it, because us up here can sit here and tell the general public all day long how much we need a jail. You gotta have a jail, we need a jail. We're here every day, we see the jail, we know what it looks like, we've been in it. We see the bills that go to the jail. General public doesn't see that, so it's hard to convey that message to people, and I don't wanna keep beating the people about, you have to have a jail, you have to have a jail, you have to have a jail. We see it, we understand it, but I think we've put together, and the sheriff and his jail committee have put together a fairly reasonable proposal that is, again, on the conservative end, not the larger scale. When we first looked at it, it was gonna be a lot larger, anticipating a lot larger, because I think some of us probably thought, sure, we can rent out more beds, we can make more money. But then when we came back down to earth and said, we need to go with reality, and we need to go with what's gonna suit this county for our, for the initial, that jail's been there since the 60s, this one needs to be there another, 50, 60 years too, so 100 years even, we need to think about that. We need to think about when will be the next time that a jail comes if this one doesn't, and I think, again, I understand the commissioners that feel rushed. I hate anything to be rushed on me, but I also understand, Commissioner Marks, that we've been on this for 2 years, and we do need to make the right decision, I think, and we'll talk about it until we come to it, I feel, and anyone has, the sheriff?
I know a lot of people keep saying the word jail, and I think it's important to remember, we're not just talking a jail. We're talking about your road patrol, so they have the proper workspace to work out of. We're talking about your detective bureau, who needs interview rooms to interview people. We're talking about your animal control, your emergency management, the sheriff's office in general that are open to the public. There's many things that go on in this building, not just a jail. So by not moving forward with this, it actually hampers the entire law enforcement efforts here in Shiawassee County. In every division that I operate, we have to make some type of adjustment to deal with that building. From not having enough interview rooms, to the cars when they pull in the sally port, you can't open the doors, to the kitchen, it's small, and bringing the things down to the other end, to the safety securities of the jail. The list goes on and on. Every division is affected in there. So it's not just the jail. And this is something that the county really needs.
Mr. Chair, if I may. Sheriff, I believe I remember you saying in one of the previous committee meetings that we don't have the capability of separating based on severity of the crime, these inmates?
I'll give you an example of just today and over the last 3 weeks. We have maximum security prisoners. Whenever somebody comes in, depending on what kind of crime they committed, we have to do a security survey to gauge what security level they're in. So we have maximum security cells, and obviously to hold the most dangerous people. Our maximum security cell, even though the county buildings grounds works very hard to try to keep that place up and spends a lot of time in there, and sometimes up to 60% of their time just in that building alone, they're not able always to get the jobs done. So we've had toilets that have been down for 3 weeks, and when you shut the water off to that maximum security cell, it doesn't just close down one cell, it closes down 3 maximum security cells. So we have to take those maximum security prisoners and place them into a general population. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but this is the type of liability that we incur every day. So I put that maximum security prisoner into a minimum security, a medium security, and there's a fight, and somebody get hurt bad. So who's got the liability? The county? Because we're not housing people how we should? Absolutely we do. But I'm here to tell you, and that's the type of stuff I deal with every day. And I don't want that liability for the county. I want to do what we're supposed to do, and I know this isn't stuff that people think about, but if they take the time and get educated, it's more than just wanting to spend money, on a big, fancy jail. That's not what this is about. It's about our workers. It's about the liabilities. It's about having adequate offices to work out of. There's so much to this.
It does certainly make me think. So is it possible then that, say there's a lot of parents in this county have 18 to 25-year-old kids, and they could have been the best parent in the world, and their kid goes in for DUI or some sort of possession of whatever. It's possible that their child, could be in with a murder suspect.
A maximum security prisoner? Absolutely. Whether that be a murderer or somebody else. I can't tell you, but yeah, absolutely, because we don't have the facilities.
I got a question. You said the emergency manager, is he gonna move over there from his office where he is now then? You said you had room for him?
Yeah, so there will be an office that is in that building, and the emergency operations center for the county will be transferred to the new sheriff's office.
Oh, that's what I wondered, because.
So you'll have that office space as well.
Yeah, at least that's a plus. I just wanted to make sure that we got extra
Yes, sir.
offices.
And you make a good
We're
point.
crowded right now with all our offices.
And I'll be able to turn the work release facility over to you also, because I'll be able to close that down and not operate 2 buildings as I do now, because we will have the work detail and work inmates coming out of the new jail. So you'll have the Griffin Center as well.
The whole Griffin Center then, or? just part?
You'll still have to provide a spot for the probation and parole side,
Oh, okay.
that side, but we will vacate the present work release facility on the south side of the building.
Okay.
I would like to add too that in this proposal, it provides for the demolition of the existing building, as we all know, instead of, sometimes questions arise, what are we gonna do with the other one, and what's gonna happen to that building, and that building is going to be taken care of, and it's beyond repair, so that the demolition is obviously included in this, to get rid of that, open up some parking probably for the city of Corona and Shiawassee County. That does include an additional sally port added to the courthouse for transportation of our prisoners from the jail down to the county courthouse. I believe there is also going to be much needed attorney client rooms that we don't currently have now.
That's correct.
That they have no privacy.
The same attorney client room that's provided in our current jail is often used by bondsmen, so the attorneys will wait in the lobby until it's their turn. If there's multiple attorneys, they will wait until it's their turn. We have a closet that's in there that it's actually an office for us, but it's a closet, we turned it into an office, so we can't even go into that office until the attorneys are done visiting. In the new facility at the courthouse, we call it a sally port, when the transport van comes in, you'll be able to place the prisoners that have to go to the court that day for the first time. Right now, you only have a single cell up in the circuit courthouse, and we'll be able to provide a place for the attorneys to meet with those prisoners, which they can do, but oftentimes are stuck inside and then with the prisoner, or have to talk through a door. So there's not really adequate facilities for the attorney-client visitation as well.
Mr. Chairman, can I? So, I think my big concern is, will voters vote for this plan? And I don't believe that they will. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't believe they will. So, I hear what the sheriff is saying, and I understand the concerns, and I know that your job is very difficult, and you do not have adequate resources in the jail. But if we vote to put this on for May, then we won't start working on a new plan until the day after the election in May, because we won't know what the voters have said, and I think they're gonna say no. I could be wrong, but I think they will. If we decide today to go for November, we could start working on a new plan today, which is 3 months ahead of where we would be in May. So it really moves a new plan along quicker to vote no today and start working on something that costs less than to wait till May to get a read from the voters and start working on a new plan after that.
Question?
Public comment, sir. We'll wait till public comment.
You can't
Mr. Chairman.
comment until after they.
The sheriff's been given an opportunity to educate the public.
Please.
You know, honestly, I don't know what the public will say either, but I think a lot of people have not heard the information that you are hearing tonight. I know I will be very busy, and I, give up many nights to attend meetings, and I will continue to do that because I feel as sheriff, that's my duty. My duty is to maintain the county jail, and the people of this county need to know what the county jail is like. They can't make an educated decision if they don't have the information. So I'm hoping once we get this information out and we talk about some of the things that we've talked about tonight, that person that goes in that booth says, I don't want to spend the money, but I see the need, and we have to get it done, if not for my generation, but for the next generation, and do it. I mean, the cost is only going to go up, and this stuff happens. It happens with schools and things like that. But we're running out of time here before something happens, and that's going to be either liability or throw the money in there, or who knows. I mean, up and to including maybe get shut down and then have to house our prisoners somewhere else. And we have over 100 prisoners in that building. In 1 year, that's over $1 million if they have to be sourced out to different other county jails. I mean, that's a worst case scenario, but it could happen.
Do you have anything else at this time?
Yes, sir.
I was just saying, I think we have 2 mills for the medical care facility on there, so this is less than that. So, isn't it 2 mills?
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, my final comment, I'm kind of just piggybacking off of what the sheriff had said. This is a statutory requirement of us to provide a jail. That's his job. We have to have a jail, or they're going to be sending the inmates elsewhere. So we'll eventually either have to do this or not have a jail in this county. 75,000 people. It's not like we're up in the UP. This is a conservative proposal. I've been working on it for 2 years. It really is. This is not. You're not going to come in much less. If we strip this down, maybe a couple million. Going back to the drawing board with this will be very difficult. It will. I like that this is a conservative proposal. I believe that it is the correct time to give the people a choice to decide whether they want this or not. And that's all I will say.
Thank you, Commissioner Marks. All right, Commissioner, we'll go around again if anyone has any final comments, and then we'll call the vote here.
Thank you. I will say again that I know that we need a new jail. I don't know if this is a conservative proposal because I have not seen any of the others, and I would like to have seen some of the others. And I know that everybody's, busy, and I didn't know this was coming on until just the last couple of weeks. I heard rumors, but didn't know. And it's really hard to know if this is conservative. It doesn't feel conservative to me, but that's because I haven't seen the scale. I don't know what the other proposals were. So it's hard for me to give a yes vote when I don't feel like I have the information I need on such a very, very large project. It's difficult.
Thank you. Commissioner Warner?
Just to follow up on that train of thought, I think our citizens need to know. And, people who will come out for an election in May are that concerned group. And essentially, I think they need to know. But I'm questioning, also whether or not it would pass. And I think the point about, if we just accept the fact that we need to get more information, I think we may be better off starting to work on a plan that, could reduce those costs. At least presented as one of an option. I am kind of curious, how much of the detail work has already been done on the drawings as far as that goes. You might know. Or we just look at that, somebody puts it together for the sake of presentation.
Those are all preliminary drawings. They give you a basic idea of how the jail will be laid out, but it doesn't specifically say, okay, we got an interview room here, so therefore it's got to stay there. No. But we've sat down probably almost a dozen times since the time that I started planning this to talk about this project and what we'd like to see in a jail. And this company that we selected, and Joe Maroc himself, and the only reason I sought Mr. Maroc out is because I found that he is probably one of the most experienced jail builders in the United States. He himself has designed over 90 jails in the United States. So he comes with a wealth of experience. And I think if we do have a jail, we're going to have probably one of the best jails in the country.
Mr. Marks, anything to add?
Yes, I do. It's simply that, I've heard a few commissioners say, and rightfully so, that they feel, based on what they engage with their constituents, they're not confident this will pass. I say that I don't know that we do know whether it will pass or not, because the last time this was asked, there was a need 20 years ago. The test was 20 years ago. We don't know if it's going to pass or not, but we certainly would, based on the answer. And then I don't want to put the cart before the horse. If they say no, then we go back. And if that's 3 months, that's 3 months. But if it passes, then we've got work to do. And I believe that if we put this on the ballot, the sheriff's got work to do. It's his job to get out there and sell to the people, not ours.
Dina's probably got to work too.
The point is, we just cannot know what the people of this county are going to decide until we vote. The last time we did it was 20 years ago, and so I will be voting yes to give them a choice. That's all.
Commissioner Darber?
Well, as you all know, I'm a new commissioner also. I have taken the time to thoroughly review this jail proposal. And I think it is a solid proposal. It is in no way, in my opinion, more than what we need. And also, the issue was raised about sustainability yesterday. What we have over there is not sustainable. We are putting money hand over fist into a building that just doesn't warrant any more money being put into it. And as I sit here as a commissioner, I don't feel good about that. I wouldn't put money into my own house if it was falling down. So I definitely will vote yes to put this on in May. That's all I have.
Commissioner Holzhausen?
I think we talked it to death. I think we better take the vote.
Okay. Commissioner Paulman, any last comments?
Yeah, I have one that hasn't risen today. Our sheriff is an elected official, and he's asking the Board of Commissioners to give him the opportunity to have an election to fund a new jail. He's an elected official, and that's his realm, but he has to come to us to get permission to put it on the ballot. If the sheriff was hired by the Board of Commissioners, then it's up to the Board of Commissioners to put it on the ballot and do the campaigning. But the sheriff has asked us as an elected official, and I'm going to respect that. I'm not happy that it's 70. I thought it was 60. I'm going to have to go back and eat crow with 2 townships. So I've been sitting here, you haven't heard much from me because of that. But I do know that we need a new jail. And I will respect the sheriff and the many people who worked on this project. They want it to come to a vote. And if it doesn't pass, or it does pass, then we'd have to really take another look at it. And now, of course, I really respect Marlene, coming on board new. John's had some really good and Cindy. But I have been a commissioner, I do understand these charts, but I did miss the 70 million, I thought it was 60. But, so I guess I'm the last one to come.
Thank you, Commissioner Plowman. All right, at this point, we've heard enough. I will leave it at that. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
No.
Commissioner Horvath,
No.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes,
Commissioner Webster,
No?
Chairman Root.
Yes. Motion is approved. We will move on to agenda item C. Commissioner Plowman.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve the minutes of the February 4th, 2019 Finance and Administrative Committee.
We have a motion on the table.
I will second the motion.
We have a second motion. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the February 4th Finance Administration Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Plowman. We will move to Public Safety and Courts, Commissioner Webster.
Item A, I move to authorize the district court to hire a deputy clerk at salary grade 3, $13.90 to $18.06 an hour, starting $13.90 to $14.94, to fill a vacancy.
We have a motion on the table.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on this motion? I'm assuming this was a late ad in my absence.
It was added, it was added
It was
at
at,
committee.
Monday.
at her meeting.
Yeah.
Second.
Commissioner Marks.
Oh,
All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Horvath,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes?
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Yes.
Thank you. Item B, I move to approve the minutes of the February 5th, 2019 Public Safety and Courts Committee meeting.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is approved. Thank you, Commissioner Webster. We'll move to Health and Human Services, Commissioner Garber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item A, appoint Ralph Reinigans to the Valley Area Agency on Aging Board of Directors as a senior representative to fill a vacancy effective immediately and expiring on 12/31/19, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Motion and support. Discussion on this motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion is approved.
Item B, adopt the MERS defined benefit plan agreement to establish a defined contribution plan for all new hires in the Shiawassee County Medical Care Facility, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Support.
Third.
Fourth.
Who gets the second? I heard Marks.
Yeah, Commissioner Marks on that one. Any discussion on this? All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner, yes.
Roll call, yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes?
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Horvath,
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Yes. Motion approved.
All right, item C, adopt the MERS resolution establishing authorized signatories for MERS contracts and service credit purchase approvals, authorizing the SCMCF administrator to execute future documents, and authorize the board chair to execute the same.
Support.
A motion and support, that was Commissioner Plowman. that
Yes.
time. Any discussion on this motion? Another roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes?
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Horvath,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Yes.
Item D, approve the minutes of February 5th, 2019 Health and Human Services Committee meeting.
Support.
Motion and support on minutes, approving the minutes. Any discussion on these minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Commissioner Gardner. Chairperson, just want to thank everybody for pulling through, even though I wasn't here. I wasn't here most of the week. I've been under the weather, still a little under the weather today, but I wanted to be here to finish out some of the business we have this month. That being said, my absence has kept me from bringing forward the road commission's proposal that I had mentioned last month to everyone. But I figure we'll hold it at this point until next month. And also with that, I want everybody to start thinking about the idea of the expansion of the road commission board from 3 members to 5. Currently, I've had some talks with my townships, the Township Association. Maybe not the best accountability over there, maybe not the best type of repairs going into the roads, and maybe not, just things of, I don't want to accuse anyone of anything, but I've certainly heard from the union, I've certainly heard from employees, I've heard from supervisors, and this board does have the ability to expand that board and appoint members to fill those positions until election time. So I think maybe that's a quick thing. I do have that information from our attorney that I will also get to everyone, because if this is something we do entertain, that we do put out there, it will be provided. We have to have a public hearing so that everyone can come before the board to address their concerns regarding expansion of the road commission board. But at this time, I think a 5-person board is far. A 3-person board, I think it's time we expand that a little bit, look into it. Right now, it's just something to put out there to you guys just to think about. It's not set in stone, it's not for sure, and I'll get everybody the paperwork and an email, and everyone can look it over and certainly get their feelings, engage their townships to see what they feel on road repairs, road requests, because that seems to be a big issue. I know I take a lot of calls on the roads and how they're taken care of, and I know they do the best they can, or they say they're doing the best they can, but when you start scratching the surface and find out what's going on over there, I think some people will be shocked, especially when the public starts to find out exactly what's going on over there, and how much money's over there, and how much money's going into administration and not into the roads. So there's a number of things that need to be looked at, and somewhere along the lines, the county, even though they separated off, had the ability to have sort of a sign off or a look over of their annual budget. Somewhere along the lines of our very previous county administrator, that duty got dumped. So we will, just looking for some oversight basically for townships and people we represent. I know I've heard from my township supervisors, and they're kind of leading the charge with this one in particular. So we're something for us to think about. We do have the right to do that, as well as put that out for ballot, and even consider this board even reabsorbing the road commission as a county department as something to look at. But that's all I have really. Still, the move plan is still something. I've been under the weather again, I haven't been able to do that, but do want to meet with them. A couple of departments, commissioners are interested in sitting down to kind of discuss. I mean, I have a plan in my head that we've kind of put together over the last year or two, but maybe we'll throw it out there and see how everybody feels about it and what they're thinking, and we'll get the departments that are going to be involved in the move together, and because before we know it, that's coming next month, so we need to get going on that. I don't, unfortunately, have an update on our building and grounds building. Do you have anything, Commissioner Holzhausen, on that building?
They haven't been working on the pole barn, but they've been working on putting water lines and the sewer lines and stuff like that. They've been out there, they got a big excavator. I didn't stop and talk to them.
June or July, what was the
Oh, I don't know.
estimated? I want to say maybe it was July.
Yeah, maybe, no. By fall,
Yeah, maybe next June. All right, but that's all I have at this time. If anyone else has anything, any other agenda items that come to the board?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to give a bit of a forecast of also something that may be coming forward next month. It's time that we start to take a look at our old county master plan and determine whether it is time for a new county master plan. So I'll expect some of those discussions to start next month.
Perfect. Anyone else, any other agenda items?
It's not an
Yes.
agenda item, but it is something that is going to take place prior to the March meetings. I'm pretty excited. This is not necessarily, it's coming out in a press release in a week. After some deliberation and discussion with department heads at the leadership meeting a month or so ago, I had made an offer to talk about opening up on a Saturday, to offer our constituents some office hours, especially my clerk's office. We turn away people, or they call from out of town, can't make it during lunch. I mean, my staff is continually staying and sticking around, and it was suggested to me from another county, Muskegon. She does this twice a year. We're going to opt for March and October, limited hours, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., and it will be the circuit court building. We are all going to be open. The department heads are excited about it. I concurred with Judge Clarkson and Judge Stewart. He's very excited that he's going to hold court. So I didn't look for court to be happening, but he took that a little step further. However, it does open up conversation for other things to look at as a county and our availability to our constituents outside of normal business 8 to 5 hours. Just this past week, I walked out and someone was being turned away, and it's like, oh gosh. And she had 3 little kids and a kid in a car seat, and it just, this is a continuous thing, especially for the clerks. One of the determinations for us for selecting the Saturdays that we do is the Friend of the Court has their system available 1 Saturday a month. So that is why we are selecting March 9th. We do not have the October date yet, but pretty excited about this, hoping that it will open up some conversation. We are going to have flyers. I've talked with the sheriff. He's going to have, the building will be open, the circuit court building will be open to the public for constituents to do normal business as if it was Monday through Friday. So that's going to happen prior to our March 9th, so hopefully I'll have a very good report to share with you in March meetings.
Thank you. Very good. Sounds like you'll be working on Saturday.
Sounds like it.
Maybe he's gonna do FOC stuff.
No, it's
No criminal stuff?
No,
Okay, okay, then I'm not working on Saturday.
just the circuit court building.
All right. Anything else at this time from anyone?
It could be.
What did you ask if there were any other comments? What did you say?
Yes, any other comments from any members of the board?
I wanted to say that I really appreciated our discussion tonight. It was very respectful, and it was a really difficult topic, and I appreciated the tone of it, and that we agreed to disagree, so.
Thank you.
And I'd like to make a comment on that as well. You know, now that it's done, and we're moving forward, I want to put all the effort into this. You know, but this, what would be very helpful is information. You know, because it's been hard to understand this as it's been explained to me without having been here for the last term, when others have had that information. And those are the kind of questions we're facing, and I want to see these passed now.
Very good, very good. Anyone else? All right, we're going to go on to the second opportunity for the public to address the board. If anyone has anything you would like to speak in the second round, remember to fill out a slip and you can address the board. But right now, Anthony Carhoff.
Okay. First of all, apologize for my fire pager going off, guys. I'm a volunteer. It does happen now and then. Well, congratulations, everybody, on being elected. Thank you. I know how hard it is to serve as an elected official. I came to talk about the jail, for and against, but I do understand everybody's opinions and concerns. $70 million is a lot of money. Would 6 months have helped? Probably. I'd like to see it pass. I trust Brian Bagol. I've worked with him. I grew up with him. I mean, my dad had 28 and a half years in with the county here. He did a lot of maintenance in that jail. And my dad has, relayed a lot of concerns of the condition of that jail. And he's been off for almost 10 years, retired now. So it's only progressively gotten worse. So yes, we do need a new jail. but I do find it difficult to swallow the $7 million ticket. I was figuring this out. I brought my tax papers because, we all pay taxes, and the lovely thing is so my SEV value for my little small farm is $53,800, and I believe Cindy Garber and I kind of figured that out. It'd come down about $82 a year for my property taxes would go up, and it isn't that bad, but I wish we would have had a little more time to talk about it and get more public input. But I support Brian Bagol. He is an elected official. I trust him. We've been on many calls where stuff's hit the fan and we're working together side by side. If he says we need a new jail, I think you guys did the right thing. Put it to the people's vote. Let them decide. You guys are doing a good job. I appreciate it. Thank you, Brian, for what you've done with the jail. You've turned it around. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Brian True.
Yeah, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to see that jail's functionally obsolete. I live this every day. I drive by the Detroit jail and I see what a disaster that project was. I think unfortunately there's a lot of lack of experience, and people rush up here and they see the jail and they know they can sell you on building that jail. Now, I don't know what the actual cost is. It sounds like you guys aren't really prepared. You really don't know. You've apparently hired one person who builds these jails for a living, and he's kind of sold you on the project. I'd highly recommend that you guys invest in a project manager that represents the interests of the counties. Possibly brings in a couple other people to bid out the project. It's nice when people come to town, they take out the lunch and they play golf. I do the same thing. It's a sales job. We're trying to win the work. I'm sure the guy came up and said he built 18 dozen jails. He's trying to win the work too. But it's important that the county has someone who represents their interests. You guys don't build these buildings. When I work with GM or Delphi or any other company, large, small, or indifferent, we bring in someone that knows the process of bidding out the projects, make sure that they look at those bids, and then make sure that they get the best, best they can for the money they're going to spend. And I think you guys just aren't prepared. Admittedly, I haven't been involved in the whole process. I'm new to this, but I went through the whole Project Kim thing. I came up here and some guy over here was giving me a hard time because, I didn't want jobs. No, it didn't pass the sniff test. It was dead on arrival, but somebody came to town, sold you guys a bill of goods. Someone came to Detroit, sold them a bill of goods. So what I ask is maybe the county commissioners hire somebody that knows the process of construction to build this jail. And by bringing that person in, you'll build some confidence with the folks within the county to show that you've got someone that just represents your interests. And I guess he's got some rebuttal, but to bring in one person to try and win that work is, problematic. So go ahead.
Just the opposite. I agree with you 100%. I've already looked into that phase to make sure that the county's interests are protected through the whole construction process. So that I absolutely agree with you on that, sir. So just the opposite.
Okay, sounds good.
I will add that Mr. Maroc, the one that I sought him out though on his architectural design, he designed the jail, but he won't be the one that's contracted to build it.
I still recommend you get a project manager.
Yes, sir. And I have.
Those vendors.
I've already had meetings, and there's been several of the county board of commissioners in those meetings to make sure that the county's best interest through the construction process was there. So, thanks.
Thank you. And finally, Rich Lavin.
Thank you. I'm really dismayed to see how such a sizable, expensive project is being rushed through, and I don't believe it's, what I've heard tonight suggests that it has been rushed and not very well thought out. I think it's a mistake to put it before the electorate, because I think if you present this, it's going to be voted down. I certainly hope it is, and I'm going to do every damn thing I can to see that it's down. But I think strategically it's wrong, but, and I wish I could have had an opportunity to make my comments before the vote, because while it may cost $25,000 to run an election, what, a couple grand to do a poll and get an idea of where you are? Why, did anyone think of that? That seems reasonable. I heard a number of you question the likelihood of it passing. That might be something. I did a little homework last night and I looked into this outfit. You know, they have built, I don't know, I didn't get an exact count, 6, 8, 9, 10 jails in Michigan. Any of you looked at them? See what the final cost of those, see how they looked? I don't know. And you know what? If you look up that organization, architecture, you know, just a corporate name for mass incarceration, and then you go to the design, it goes immediately to some sheriff's organization. I mean, you know, I'm really dismayed that no one considered the, incidentally, I think the population of this county is 68, not 75.
Right.
So I think it's important to be
Documented.
accurate. Excuse me?
Documented.
Excuse me?
Documented citizens.
What's documented?
68,000.
Okay,
It could be undocumented.
well, it's 68,000 and some change. Also, this isn't gonna pass. You're gonna have to do something with that jail because it's already proven you can't keep them safe. As long as you put in addicts and mentally ill, you can't keep them safe. You just can't do it.
About 15 seconds left.
All right, you're gonna have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for that poor woman that was 32 years old. And one of the people that was involved in that came from out of county. The sheriff a little while ago said, "Our people." We want to have our people
All right,
here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
What you really want is
Appreciate
Flint.
your comments. Thank you. Everyone, I believe, has been heard. Mr. Shepherd, come on up.
I kind of alluded to the presence of making profit, and only one person, yourself, Commissioner, made comment that it was going to be a profit-making situation. But nothing was addressed to making the profit-making situation pay for it, and not the taxpayers. If appointed officials are going to be responsible, or elected officials, if all the money's going to Brian, then he's going to be responsible for it. But if it just goes through the hands of any other individual, how can it be trusted by the taxpayers for just over $4 million from the Veterans Committee when you're asking for $70 million?
Thank you, Mr. Shepherd.
Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Corwin?
Thank you, Commissioner. You've heard from a multitude of different people, but you haven't heard from a person that's charged with protecting the rights of those individuals that are in the county jail. There's no question we need a new county jail. It's sad to me. I've had clients beat in there before. I've had clients get ill from insects or spider bites and not in the best situation. They're not protected from other predators or maximum security people. And we definitely need a new jail. It was built 1 year before I was born, and I can tell you my body's breaking down at 54 years old. And I can't tell you what the jail's gone through. But as the public defender for this county, there are so many things that this county lacks. We are trying to get addressed as far as meeting room with prisoners for the public defenders, being able to have privacy. And Mr. Sheriff Pagol has taken care of that in his plan for the new jail. It also includes private attorney meeting rooms, which have been mandated already by the state, and we're in the process of implementing them in the old jail. You haven't thought about what it means to the community. I've been kind of going back and forth. Yeah, I don't want to pay any more taxes, but roughly, it's not gonna be that much. And I think it's well worth it for the commissioners to look at that. And we don't look at the benefits it's gonna do for our community. We're gonna have services for mental health. We're gonna have services for substance abuse. My people need them. I'm so tired of, every time I go to a sentencing, the aspects we look at in sentencing, what the judge looks at is punishment, protection of society, rehabilitation, and those are just a few of the things the judge looks at. And when I don't have any rehabilitation programs for the people I represent in this county who need them, I hate to see them go to jail or to prison when we could service them in a new facility with programs that would offer. And one of my suggestions to the sheriff would be get a program going, not only with mental health and substance abuse. We have a drug court that started. We are looking to the future for that. We're looking for the betterment of our citizens, but also looking at, there's an opportunity to team up with some of the industries here in town to help supply work release people to come work in their company, set up a program. I have heard many times, I've sent some of my clients to go over to Nucor, go over to Crest Marine. They can't get enough people to work there. And we could set up a program, a work release where they could work. Then they could pay also for their stay at the jail at the dollar amount per day what it costs us to house them. So ultimately, as you heard, that is the maximum the commissioners can charge, would be the 1.64 mils. But if we can set up programs and all work together, we can maybe even lower that price tag to the community. But we've got to start somewhere. And I would urge the commissioners to even help the sheriff advertise, not only do we need it, but I think it's something that can help our community grow, be better, because I know I don't want my children going into that jail. And sometimes stuff happens. And good people end up committing crimes. And I don't want to see people hurt unnecessarily. When we can set up a new jail that offers protection for them, that offers programming that is not currently there. And I think we forget that as part of the proposal is setting up these new programs. Those are tools that I can use as your public defender to help rehabilitate my clients and make them contributing members of our community. So I'd ask the commissioners just to continue to discuss this and support the sheriff. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, again, one last call to the public. If anyone has anything at this time. Mr. Schneider, you gotta be kidding.
The sugar has worn off. I understand. It's just the problems now, everything that you're going through is with the new jail. I do believe it needs to be brought up to the public. Let them decide. I also understand that there's only one plan is to do this. Why don't you have various other plans? Brian was basically asking for all the bells and whistles, as is champagne taste on a Budweiser budget, which we all understand. Let's see what we can do with a little smaller, scaled down version from other people that are in that business. That way the public will know a lot better what is going on and what the money is being spent. Because I do agree with Commissioner Webster is that I don't believe it's going to pass. Not as it sits. With no options, makes everybody look foolish. Also, here you guys are ready to sign off on $70 million. And I bring it back to the veteran problem. Homeless veterans. I've been coming here for years talking about helping them. We're still talking. I'm not asking you to spend any money. I'm asking for permission to use some county property for tiny homes on wheels. You and I have talked about it before. Something comes up, you decide you're going to expand the jail even larger, or put the courthouse out there, or do whatever the heck you want with that property. These things that I'm proposing for the vets, they're on wheels. You hook up, you drag them to another spot. So it's really not helping or hindering the county in the least little bit. but it is getting a lot of the homeless that are along the river. What was it? Caledonia Township is having a problem with homeless, and it's a real jungle and a mess down there. They can't afford to fix it. We've never done anything really to help them. And I'm talking the homeless down and through there. Why don't we have one area that at least most of them can go to? And it's beside a public building with the police, so they can, keep an eye on it. It should intimidate some of the people that might think about doing something illegal with having a cop next door. It's a win-win situation. Working with the trailers and everything. Matt Shepard and I, we have bought in the last year over 24 trailers. We've got most of the equipment. We're not looking for tiny homes on wheels like on TV. We're looking for something that's going to give them heat, lights, and a warm, dry place to live. Temporarily. It's only emergency shelter. It's not forever. But everybody has a hard time in their life. Stuff happens. And it's nice to know that they can, still stay in our community and get their back on their feet. And that's all we're trying to propose, is to help our friends and neighbors that are having a difficult time. The churches can't put them up. They complained about bed bugs last year and how much it was going to cost to, defumigate or whatever. Trailers, you throw a piece of plastic over it right on the spot and fumigate it. It's small. It's a no-brainer. So it can be, if they have a problem, it can be fixed right immediately. And it's so close, and it's part of our community. And then instead of ignoring the homeless, let's help them. Because they are our friends and our neighbors. A lot of times, we're family. So let's do something. Okay?
Thank you. Hesitant on saying anyone else. Is there any other public comment at this time that anyone would like to address the board?
I'd like to just say one quick thing.
I would we'd talk after the meeting.
Why is that?
Because sir, you've talked twice. You've had both your times. You went 3 minutes both times.
How is that to be understood?
Over.
Other than cynical.
Does anyone else have anything at this time? This meeting's adjourned.
Commissioners, I need to